Hi, this is Scott with the Get Smart Group. I'm one of the co-founders here, and this is a course on developing a 12-month marketing calendar for your pool or spa business. So when you're working to develop a 12-month marketing calendar, a lot of different pieces have to go into the planning and getting all of your assets ready, getting all of your materials ready, and also really understanding how that marketing calendar materially impacts the revenue of your business, your sales goals, goal setting. All of those different things come into play when developing that calendar. So we've broken this video into a couple of different pieces to kind of chunk through all of the various things you need to know to learn how to properly develop a 12-month marketing calendar for your business. So let's just jump right in here. We're gonna start with the agenda today, okay? So I wanna talk about the customer journey. That's gonna be a really, really critical one. The sales funnel versus the flywheel. This is a really important concept on how to view generating leads and eventually turning them into customers. We're also gonna talk about the seasonal sales cycle. KPIs, also known as key performance indicators, really important. What are the numbers that you need for your business to really understand what's working, what's not, and where to focus your marketing calendar efforts. And then evergreen versus promo campaigns, really, really important concept to understand. And finally, building the actual calendar. We've got some links with these videos that include downloads to our Google Docs and some of our other planning documents that you can get access to and punch in your own numbers and use it from there. So let's jump in. As I'm sure you're aware, the marketing landscape for pretty much any business changes all the time. There's new tools, new websites, new social apps you have to be part of, and it's really hard to keep track of. Customers change their buying habits, change their education habits. It's really all over the map. And so this year, and this really started for us in like late 2023, really got traction in 2024, and now this is our mantra going forward from 25 and beyond, is less marketing but better. What really moves the needle? What efforts can you undertake that are going to actually move the needle? And in some cases, we're finding that when you do all the math, running sales, running big tent events and things like that, actually creates almost a net zero change to the business. You might sell a few more units, you might sell a few more service contracts, a few more hot tubs, a few more saunas, 1 or 2 extra pools, but after you factor in all of the advertising costs, all of the staffing costs, the logistics costs, the asset costs, you kind of break even. That's not always the case. There are certainly markets where it does do better and sales are warranted, but part of this course is really to dive into the differences between what's actually going to move the needle and what's not. So again, less marketing but better. Focus on the things we know work, and most importantly, we know that we can measure. So let's talk about the customer journey, right? And for the purposes of this conversation, we're talking about swimming pools and then hot tubs, swim spas, and then kind of saunas goes down from there. But let's go to the big number items first. The customer journey starts on a couch, right? They're sitting there, whoever it happens to be says, you know what, it'd be nice to have a pool someday, right? And that starts so early. You're never gonna be part of that conversation that far back. But part of our goal of developing a really integrated marketing calendar is so that you end up as part of that conversation, or at least they're aware you exist, as early in that buying process as possible. Really, really, really important. So how do you get a couple sitting on the couch talking about a pool to contacting you and then buying from you, right? So we talk about this in terms of the marketing calendar and how long it actually takes to get that lead to buy. And in all reality, a swimming pool is a 2 to 3 year buying process minimum, sometimes 5, 6, 7 years. And a hot tub spa, swim spa, sauna, usually 6 to 12 months, sometimes 18 to 24 months. It just depends really where they're at and what their goals are and if there's perhaps a medical need that pushes that demand forward, right? But for the most part, this is that cycle, okay? And we really have to understand, what are those people looking for? What are they trying to learn or research during this process as they're along that buying path. And we call that buying intent signals. Okay, what are the signals that they're giving off to indicate where they are in the buying process? So we've kind of broken a pool buying, we'll use pools as the example here. We've broken the pool buying process into 5 steps. And I've also added the individual kinds of ads for each step along the way. So the first stage, we call it the imagine phase. And that goes back to that couple sitting on the couch, right? Oh, it would be nice to have a pool someday. It would be amazing to have a pool someday. Well, we can help with that. But at that point, they don't even know that there's fiberglass versus concrete versus vinyl versus ICF versus whatever. They don't know that yet. They don't know the shapes that pools come in. They don't know how much it's gonna mess up their backyard. Many of them don't even know the difference between an in-ground pool and an above-ground pool. So there's a big gap of information right there, right? But if you're the local builder, you want to be part of that conversation, even if it's not a two-way conversation, as early as possible. You want them to come to your website and learn about those options, the colors and sizes and materials, before they go to somebody else's website, right? And you want to capture that lead along the way so you can continue to provide education and information to them. So eventually, when they're ready to buy a pool, at the very least, you're in the conversation, right? You're going to get an opportunity to bid. Now, there's other reasons that you might lose a bid if you're in a competitive bidding process, but that's not the point here. The point is to make sure your business, through your marketing efforts, ensures that every single customer in your service area, you have an opportunity to sell to them, right? So imagine, first phase, right? Then comes research. And this is where they're starting to go beyond just like putting Pinterest pictures on, of pretty backyards. Now they're starting to say, okay, how big is my yard? What is my yard access like? Maybe I want a rectangle pool. Maybe I want an L, maybe I want a kidney, maybe I want to go completely custom, right? All that stuff is still up in the air, but now they're starting to get into the phase of looking more specific pool types, colors, shapes, heaters, heat pumps, all those different things, right? And then now when they're finally to the design phase, somewhere between here, and the next phase is called plan, somewhere between design and plan is when they're actually going to reach out to you and want to have a conversation, okay? So that's where if you get them early and you keep educating them via email and other content you're putting out into the world, they're going to go, oh, I recognize that company. They've been helping me along this path. Now that I'm ready to start talking numbers, let's give them a call, right? So you're in the running, right? So design, now you're starting to get into deck jets and water slides, and then plan, that's really where the rubber hits the road, money starts flowing, and we go from there, right? And finally, of course, swim. So I really want you to think about this buyer's journey, this customer journey, and thinking about how are you creating messaging, information, follow-up systems, procedures to reach people at every stage of the process. Because we all know a salesperson is not going to keep calling on the person who's 3 years out, right? But how can you automate that educational process? How can you put information into those people's hands so that they will always think of you as the pool builder they want to go for? And how do you change that message? And how do you alter your marketing processes and sales processes along the way on that pool buying journey? So I'm going to stop this video here, and we're going to get into the sales funnel and that entire process next.